It is officially Daytona 500 week. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Inside the Lines. My name is Jet. Hope y'all are having a wonderful day. And I've been out of the loop for a few days. As I said on my discussion page, I unfortunately have COVID. As you can tell from my voice, I still have it, still have the congestion and things like that, but that's really the main issue. It's just congestion, a little bit of a scratchy throat, but other than that, I'm good to go. And I want to get back to making videos, so even though I'm not 100%, still want to be back on it. And we got some stories to talk about with NASCAR, so let's not waste any time and jump into it. Now, as stated many times, this new era of NASCAR is way more unpredictable. We've seen NASCAR do things that we never thought we would see them do ever. This year, they're going to a street race in downtown Chicago. They went at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum last year as well as this year, with NASCAR racing at the LA Coliseum, proving that racing inside a stadium can be done, has now opened a Pandora's box as to where else can you host a race inside a football stadium. Well, this new era of NASCAR is also looking at other parts of America and maybe even the world to host NASCAR races. According to Adam Surf from the Sports Business Journal, NASCAR executives are in active talks to race in the New York City region, a move that would take it into the largest media market in the US. Steve O'Donnell, COO of NASCAR, said the sanctioning body is having ongoing discussions with multiple groups in the New York City area and has made several site visits. He did not disclose any specific groups or possible venues. MetLife Stadium would seem like one of the potential options, or a street race in the city. And just to give like a little FYI, if NASCAR were to race in or around MetLife Stadium, even though it's in New Jersey, not New York, but still, if they were to race around there, it more than likely will be a street race in the summer, considering there's no way in hell they're going to have the clash inside of MetLife Stadium. Not because it can't be done, just because of the temperature. It gets a little cool in New Jersey in early February. No way that's happening. Now, not only is New York City being a place that NASCAR is looking at, also in the Pacific Northwest. O'Donnell also cited the Pacific Northwest cities of Seattle and Denver as possibilities domestically for new races. But that's something I think all race fans can agree on, is we need more representation out in the Pacific Northwest. That has been undervalued for far too long. We did have a racetrack, Pikes Peak International, that was there in the late 90s or early 2000s for what was then the Busch Series, and I think also the Truck Series race there, and IndyCar, but that track's not been touched for more than a decade. Now, recently, NASCAR has returned to the Pacific Northwest. They have hosted Xfinity races and truck races in Portland, the Portland road course. So it would be nice to see some more representation out in the Pacific Northwest. Obviously, going to a place like Denver, it's a big city, for a potential street race would be good for NASCAR to take a look at over there. And it all really depends on how well is the street race in Chicago. If that goes well, again, kind of like the clash at the Coliseum, you now open a box, a huge box. You've blown the doors wide open as to, okay, where can we take this? We know that LA Coliseum works. That means we can go, let's say, if you want to go to MetLife or if you want to go to Lambeau, I don't know. I'm just listing off stadiums. You can go to different types of stadiums in the middle of cities, big time cities to show off NASCAR to new fans. If the Chicago street race works, well, you now open up tons of possibilities to maybe Pittsburgh. That was a city that officials wanted NASCAR to come to. Maybe LA, I don't know. Maybe Miami, Austin, or like downtown Houston. I don't know. I'm just, again, throwing off big cities. But again, if the Chicago street race works, you open up so many possibilities for NASCAR to travel to. But going to New York would be extremely difficult to do, considering how tightly condensed the New York City area is. I mean, I don't know. Like, I understand Chicago, there's a lot of stuff in Chicago, but in Chicago, there is space to breathe. I don't know how in the world would they put a race in New York City. I don't know where they could even put it, because you have to consider, okay, well, barricades, you have to consider runoff areas, pit road. Where would you put a racetrack in New York City? That would be the huge question. It would be cool to see, but it would be very, very, very difficult for NASCAR to do, and something that a lot of fans are expecting and hoping for internationally. NASCAR has stated that they are looking at races in Mexico and Canada, and that there is very strong interest, which NASCAR, for the love of God, please come to Montreal. please, every year produce one of the best races of the Xfinity Series, and it was a tragedy that we left. We need to come back to Montreal, but only if it makes economically sense. Obviously, we know that NASCAR teams and that whole situation is there. If the new TV deal works out well, then let's go international racing. Let's go to Mexico. Let's go to Canada. Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. That's another beautiful racetrack that I think they should take a look at. Montreal or whatever. If it makes economically sense, then yes, absolutely. Let's travel to those places, especially considering a place like Mexico. I mean, you now have Daniel Suarez, rising Mexican driver, and has won a cup race. So big name in Mexico. So it makes even more sense for NASCAR to travel down south. Now, this all sounds really good, real interesting, and there is a huge possibility we could see one of those things happen. Because remember, Steve Phelps, president of NASCAR, did say that 2024 could potentially be the biggest change to the NASCAR calendar. That opens the door for a lot of, what ifs? I could definitely see in 2024 NASCAR going to Mexico and Canada to host NASCAR Cup races. Maybe going to a different street race, maybe out in the Pacific Northwest like Denver. Maybe they do race in New York City. I don't know, but when Steve Phelps is saying that 2024 could be the biggest schedule change in NASCAR history, and now you're starting to hear all these things of New York City, Denver, all these different potential street race options, potential Clash Coliseum options, does raise a lot of questions. Now, we all know that this new era of NASCAR has taken a huge step in terms of promotion, but also how they brand their sport. We talked a few months ago that NASCAR was launching a 4th international series, NASCAR Brazil Sprint Race. But now, according to the article, that they're looking at potentially having a series, or eyeing at the very least, a series in the Middle East. All right, interesting. Okay. I mean, here's the thing. At least with Brazil, there is stock car Brazil. So stock car racing is, I don't know how prevalent, but it is a thing in Brazil. I don't know about the Middle East. I don't know how much they care about racing. And I'm talking about just specifically on-track stuff. I'm not talking about off-track stuff because I know there's a lot of stuff to talk about that. But in terms of on-track issues or on-track discussions, I don't know if the Middle East cares that much about racing regardless. So NASCAR eyeing the Middle East is an interesting one. I would assume maybe, places like Australia or maybe Japan, maybe in Asia, since Asian culture is very prevalent in car racing. So I'm surprised that they're looking at the Middle East as an option, but I'm very excited. I love this new era of NASCAR that they're approaching and how they promote themselves, how they brand themselves out into the world. I think this is great what they're doing. Now, I know that some people are going to be very hell-bent on this, NASCAR doing these different things, going to New York City, going to places like that. But I love it because, again, I've always felt that you have to try something. Again, who knows? The Chicago street race, could it be a failure? Yeah, it could be a failure, but I'd rather them try something like this, try something new, try something fresh, try something different like this and fail than to do the same schedule every single year, no changes, nothing like that, like what we had in the 2000s and 2010s and be boring. So NASCAR trying to go to New York City, trying to go to Denver, Mexico, Canada, I'm all for it. I cannot wait to see what the 2024 schedule looks like. If for Steve Phelps to say that 24 could be the biggest schedule in history says a lot. I mean, I thought this year's schedule was crazy with the Coliseum and a street race in downtown Chicago. What the hell could 2024 bring? Very interesting. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode of Inside the Lines. What are your thoughts on this topic? Let me know in the comment section down below. NASCAR going to maybe New York City for a street race or maybe a clash at the Coliseum. Who knows? Going to Denver, international places, Middle East series. Thoughts on any of that? Let me know. Until next time, my name is Jett from MDK. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.